Okay. Yes. All right. That came on just as I spoke. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's HCD office hours for ESG. My name is Anthony Zepeda, and I will be your moderator for today's session. You can go ahead and put your name and the region you represent in the chat, and we can go ahead and get started. A couple of reminders for you. You may have just heard the announcement that this office hours session is being recorded for public record. So we've already started the recording. And secondly, HCD policy does not allow AI note takers in public meetings. So please disable your AI note taker, as we are required to remove any AI note takers from the meeting, and we don't want to kick you out. We want you to be here. Got some important updates today. And let's go to the next slide, please. Go over the quick housekeeping rules. How to ask a question. All questions must be submitted in the Q&A box. If you hover your cursor over the screen, you will see a ribbon appear, and there's a Q&A box right there. Please type your organization that you represent, your name, and the question into the question box. The team will read the questions out loud at the end of the presentation, or sometimes right in the middle of it, time permitting. And we will answer and address your questions to the best of our abilities. Alongside the presenters today, we also have our ESG reps, our specialists, and leadership online who can assist in answering these, and we will do our best to answer those questions. So just that final reminder, if you have a question, put it in the Q&A box. We realize that some people use the chat to go back and forth, but if your question's in there, oftentimes we will lose it. So please enter your question in the Q&A box. Next slide, please. So today's slides and recording will be available on the ESG webpage in approximately 2 weeks from today's session. And you can always check the HCD ESG YouTube page for previous recordings, trainings, and other helpful information should you miss an office hours, which we know no one misses an office hours, not ESG office hours. We've got always have a full house. And we thank you for that. So let's go ahead. That's housekeeping. Let's dive right into the next slide and look at today's agenda. We're going to do some brief ESG program updates as normal. And then we have our spotlight series that we usually do around July, August of every year, and it's wrapping up the previous year contract. So we are wrapping up the 2024 contracts, and that's what we're going to be talking today, trying to provide guidance for you, some helpful tips in terms of getting those contracts closed out properly and effectively, and then moving right into 2025 contracts. At the end, we'll have some time left over for Q&A and technical assistance, so have your questions ready. You can come offline and off mute and ask it just back and forth, or you can put it in the Q&A box, but we will get to your questions and provide technical assistance on any topics that we've discussed today. So next slide, please. We have annual performance reporting, or APRs. You guys are just finishing those up. Book 1 was due in June, and book 2 was due last week on July 15th. We really want to thank all of you for working so hard to get those reports submitted on time. We know it's a challenge this time of year as we move from one fiscal year to the next, and we're wrapping up one contract and moving to 1 year of the contract and moving into the next year. But there are still a few agencies that are working with their subs to get the APR submitted on time. Please reach out to your grant representative if this is the case with your agency, and we can provide assistance, as it is very important to get those in on time. They're part of a federal report that's required by HUD of HCD, so we need to get that data entered and in the report. Let's see. Just on that note, completion and submittal of the APRs in a timely manner, it's one of the factors that we use in determining if a grantee will be subject to HCD annual monitoring. So we'll talk about that more in a few slides, but just wanted to bring that to your attention today. Next update is the joint office hours efforts that we've been having with the HPD team for the past several months is coming to an end. We've been holding the joint office hours with the HPD team since March. It's been a great collaboration with the team as an experiment. to see if we could get all that information together. But starting next month, we're going to go ahead and put an end to the joint office hours collaboration, and we'll be moving back to standalone ESG office hours. For those of you who've been around, it will be the standard format that we've had for years. It's going to resume on the third Wednesday of each month from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And so next month's ESG office hours will take place on Wednesday, August 19th from 10 to 11 a.m. And next slide, please. Later this week, we're going to be sending out a new Zoom invite to everyone on our mailing list. If you're not on the mailing list and you want to be on it, and you want to get that monthly office hours invitation or update, go ahead and reach out to your rep or to the ESG NOFA inbox, and we will get you on that list. So there it is again on a slide. It's going to be a third Wednesday of the month moving forward, and the new Zoom invite will be coming in the mail, in the email later this week. So make sure to check that. And yeah, that's it. We'd also like, we really want to thank the HPD team. It was a great collaboration, and we appreciate them letting us tag into their office hours on Tuesdays. But as mentioned, we're moving back to Wednesdays next month. So with that, let's go ahead and move to the next slide. You have your grant representatives here, Sam, Gio, and Ryan. You also have the ESG NOFA inbox address at the bottom, which is monitored by staff Monday through Friday during normal business hours. You have any questions on the updates, or you want to add anyone to the list, or just general grant assistance, reach out to your grant rep or the ESG NOFA inbox, and we will get right back to you. And next slide, please. All right. Any questions so far? Just the APRs or the scheduling update is pretty general, so. It doesn't look like we have any. So until then, we'll go ahead and move to the Spotlight series. Next slide, please, which is wrapping up 2024 contracts. Each year around this time, I mentioned, we like to go through the steps required in closing out the contracts. We're coming right up against it. The year goes by so fast, and we're already at that time where we're talking about wrapping up, closing them out, moving on to the 2025 funds. So let's jump right into the expenditure deadlines and milestones for 2024. Oh, actually, go ahead. Next slide. That's fine. The closing out the 2024 contracts, we're going to discuss that. But also part of the 2024 contracts is the ESG recapture policy. And also related to the 2024 contracts is the monitoring of the 2024 contracts. So all kinds of stuff on the agenda, but we'll get through them pretty quickly. And now let's jump to that, right into the expenditure deadlines and milestones for your 2024 contracts. The expenditure deadline is 75% of your total contract award is approximately 1 month away, August 27th. So what that means is that as per your standard agreement, your agency is required to spend down 75% of their total award by August 27th of this year. The expenditure deadline for your total award, all of your funds need to be spent by September 25th, 2026, which is approximately 2 months away. And the last day to submit a 2024 RFF for expenditures through September 25th, 2026. A lot of dates, I know. That is October 25th, 2026. So the 75% and the 100%, expenditure dates, those are hard deadlines. And over the next 2 weeks or so, we will be working closely with our grantees to ensure that those deadlines are met. We can help you spend the money down. We can also look at other options should that come up. And we're going to be discussing that. So just a reminder, the last day to submit for an RFF for 2024 is October 25th, 2026. And let's go to the next slide, please. So submitting that final RFF, some of you are already there. You're ready to submit, you've spent down. Others, you're not quite far along. So I want to go over a little bit about the process for submitting your final RFF once you get there. The expenditure date, as mentioned, is September 25th. So all expenses incurred through September 25th, and you submit your RFF, and you have up through October 25th to submit that final RFF. You can submit anytime prior to that if you're ready, and just notify your grant representative, reach out to them that you're preparing your final 2024 RFF. The grant representative will send you the grant closeout form to complete and sign and submit with your final RFF. And after the submittal of the RFF and approval and payout of the RFF, your grant rep will contact you for any next steps that need to be taken. One note, as this is a multi-year contract, our first year of doing that in ESG, make sure to spend down all of your 2024 funds prior to submitting an RFF for your 2025 funds. And if it looks like you're not going to be able to spend the remaining funds, as mentioned, reach out to your grant representative. If you think you can do it, reach out to them. But if you think that you cannot expend those funds, also reach out to your grant representatives, as we're going to be discussing that in a moment in the recapture policy. Couple common questions that we get this year, time of year, is, can a grant extension for the expenditure dates or the contract end date, can you grant an extension? No, we cannot. We're operating within a window of the HUD contract with the state of California, and we cannot change those dates. We're contractually bound to them from the federal government, and then we have to hold that to our grantees as well. Another common question we get this time of year is, what if I cannot expend all the funds by the expenditure milestones or contract deadlines? Well, if this is the case, reach out to your grant representative as soon as possible and to see if they can assist you in spending those funds down in your community. If it's not going to be possible, your grant representative will begin working with you on the recapture and reallocation process, which we will discuss in the next slide. So let's jump right into that, the ESG recapture policy. And it's right there on the screen. We covered the expenditure dates, the deadlines, and now we're going to discuss what happens if you cannot spend the funds. Your agency is unable to spend the funds during the period stated in your contract. The recapture policy was introduced in the 2024 ESG state guidelines in December of 2024. It was also included in the 2024 through 2026 ESG Notice of Funding Opportunity, or NOFA, and it is also included as Exhibit F of all of your 2024 standard agreements. So in a nutshell, the recapture policy states that for 2024 ESG funds and subsequent years moving forward, any ESG funds not drawn in a timely manner, and that timely manner is outlined in your standard agreement, those funds may be recaptured and reallocated. Just a quick note, the expenditure deadlines and the contract milestones, they're identified on page 10 of the 2024 NOFA and page 1 of your Exhibit F of your 2024 standard agreement. Next slide, please. So here is what it looks like on your standard agreement. A little fuzzy as I have to just grab it from a PDF and plop it on there. But this is clearly spelled out in the NOFA and in your standard agreement. I went over these deadlines in the spend down portion and a few slides back. As you can see, the 75% deadline and the amount that can be recaptured as of the day after the 75% expenditure deadline, so August 28, 2026. The expenditure deadline for the 100% of your total award is the amount that is left over after November 24th. So we give that a whole month. We close it out, we give it a month, and then we look at that. And then the same thing, it's going to be applicable to the 2025 funds. So we'll be having this exact same conversation next August when we're wrapping up 2025 ESG contracts. So a general overview of the recapture process, as mentioned before, the 75% and the 100% expenditure dates are hard deadlines identified in the contract. And we will work closely with you over the next few weeks to identify if you can spend the funds or if you're unable to spend the funds. And for those grantees who are high risk, we've already sent out emails notifying you of this. And we'll be working with all of our grantees to ensure that we can have all the funds spent down. Just my advice, our advice is be proactive. If you can spend, if you know your agency can spend the remaining 2024 funds, start submitting those RFFs right away. Let's get that money allocated in your community and spent. However, we also want you to be proactive. It's the other way around. You're not in trouble. We're not going to be, oh my gosh. No, it's just let us know. Can you spend the funds down? If not, we are going to start the recapture process and reallocate those funds. And the intent is to reallocate those funds in your region. We don't want to take them out of one region and put them in another. But to the best of our ability, we want to take those funds and reallocate them to your COC region. Let's see. And I have any other things about that? Oh, the final step is we will reduce. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. We're going to, at the bottom of this slide, we're going to reduce the grant, your agency's award for 2024 and amend your standard agreement to reflect any changes if we have to recapture and allocate those funds. So that is recapture. That's recapture policy. And we're happy to answer questions on it. We can send you more information on it. But in a nutshell, it just comes down to if the milestones and expenditure milestones and contractual expenditure dates are not met, HCD will work with you to spend those funds. But if not, if it's not going to be possible, we will immediately begin the recapture and reallocation process. And so let's go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, this is the final leg of today's Spotlight series. We went over the expenditure dates and milestones and submitting your final RFF. That was followed by the recapture and reallocation process. All of this is going on right now, and so we want to make sure you're aware of it. The last item is the monitoring of the 2024 contracts, which is just beginning. We're doing our back-end work right now, putting everything together, and we will start the process in August. And you may recognize this slide as we used it in the May office hour session to provide an overview of the federal ESG monitoring requirements. So as the slide states, monitoring is a requirement by HUD of this grant. HCD is required to monitor our grantees. Our grantees are required to monitor their subrecipients and their service providers. It's monitoring is not a one-time event. It's an ongoing process where we're determining compliance with the federal regulations and requirements of the ESG grant. And we also want to improve performance. We want to make sure that you're deploying the funds in your community to the best of your ability. If there's a way that we can improve that, if there are any hacks we can use, by all means, that is our intent. And so let's see. Looks like we had a question, but Tim has addressed it for now. But I'm almost wrapping up here, so we'll jump to the questions in just 1 second. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide, monitoring overview. This is like a 10,000 foot level view of monitoring, a big picture view of monitoring. And it goes from the top down, and then you move over to the right, and then goes right bottom up. So HUD and the Office of the Inspector General, they are monitoring, auditing, and providing oversight for each state that receives ESG funds. And California is the largest. So they always have an eye on California. And as you go to the next level, and then HCD, we are required the monitoring and oversight of our grantees. And that's going to be the annual monitoring, the mini monitoring, and general oversight of the program. Our grantees have a responsibility, as laid out in the standard agreement, the ESG regulations, and the NOFA, that they are to monitor and provide oversight of their subrecipients and service providers. The subrecipients and service providers are responsible for the local program implementation. And as we move to the right of this slide, the reporting then starts from the ground up. The subrecipients and service providers report to the grantees. Grantees report to HCD. We then report to HUD. And that ties in right to that APR process that we were just talking about. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide. So monitoring of the 2024 contracts. We will be conducting annual monitoring starting next month. We'll start the process. We are going to be focusing on awards with the emergency shelter component. Last round of monitoring, we focused on rapid rehousing and HP. This year, we're going to focus on the emergency shelter components. We're currently reviewing contracts and identifying those grantees who will be selected for 2024 annual monitoring. We'll be looking at a variety of factors based on the HUD guidance and the community planning and development monitoring guidance provided by HUD. Some examples of what we look at are expenditure, is the grantee meeting the expenditure requirements? And contractual milestones. Are they submitting RFFs on a regular basis? Are the RFFs complete? Client files and so on. We look at our operations, your overall organization, and our reporting requirements, etc. Give me 1 second. Once we identify the grantees who will be monitored in 2024, we will be sending out formal intent to monitor letters the first week of August and setting up a meeting with your team to discuss the monitoring, go over the requirements, what we need you to upload, how long the process will take. And once we get rolling, it'll just be a few month process, and I'll speak to that in the next slide, please. All right, the monitoring of the 2024 contracts is going to take place approximately from August through October of this year. Our intent is to have this monitoring process completely wrapped up and closed out the second week of November, so no one has to think about monitoring during Thanksgiving holiday and that rush that it begins for the last 6 weeks of the year. Moving forward, this process will take place every year. For example, next year, 2027, we will be monitoring the 2025 contracts, which are just beginning. So a year from now, we'll be talking about this and how we're getting ready to monitor the 2025 contracts. Our mini monitoring process of each RFF that you submit, that's going to continue as normal. That's a compliance issue, quality control issue. We catch a lot of mistakes when they're small. In mini monitoring, it's a great tool. And if we can catch a problem when it's small, rather than when it develops into a big programmatic issue for your agency, that makes the annual monitoring so much smoother because we've already addressed that issue. It's not going to come up when we take a deep dive into your program's operation, your ESG program's operation. We will have more information on monitoring, annual monitoring, and mini monitoring in the months ahead. It's going to be the focus for our next few office hours. And make sure that you understand the monitoring process and how we can help you with that. So let's go to the next slide. And here we go. Let's start the Q&A. I'm sure we've got a ton today. There's a lot of stuff we covered. So Amanda, want to go ahead and start with the questions?
There's actually no questions in the Q&A box.
Did they all end up in the chat? Well, you guys do so well. You went right through.
Tim has been answering some in the chat.
Okay, so let me see.
But there's none in the Q&A box.
Let's see. Trying to see if these were answered. Since we do not draw down funds in IDIS, what is the deadline by which the RFF is required for 75% expenditure deadline? That's pretty straightforward. Tim addressed it a couple sections down. August 25th is a deadline to demonstrate that 75% of the total award has been expended. So we will need an RFF. Your spending will need to be down. Your spending will need to be at 75% by August when we look at August 28th. So everything's going to be submitted by the 27th. August 28th is the cutoff. We're going to look at everything. So I hope that helps. If not, ask it. You can always come off mic and ask, or you can always send it to your grant representative, for more specific guidance. And let's see. Does this slide mean the reduction of unspent funds will happen in the current grant year, or does it mean that unspent balance will be applied to the renewing grant? I'm going to turn that one over to Tim. If you can come off mic. Tim, I think I know the answer to this one, but I think I would ramble. I think it would be much better.
No worries. Thank you, Anthony. I actually did reply in the chat, so there
Oh,
was a response. Yeah. So any unspent funds that HCD deems that we need to reallocate based upon the grantees not meeting those milestones in the standard agreement, they will be reduced and taken out of your standard agreement total contract amount. Okay. So, and they will not be applied to any future year two or U3 budgets. Thanks.
thank you. And I'm going to move over to the Q&A as
I
we.
yeah, I was just gonna read those.
Amanda?
So the first one, what if by August more than 75% is expended? And that would be the best scenario because nothing happens.
Yeah, that's good
Yeah,
news. Thank you.
Anthony is doing an applaud for you because you will get to continue to spend all of your money. So that is what we like. And if you did not receive the email, then good for you. But if you did receive the email, then just start spending and nothing will happen. But if you can't reach that 75% expended, then you'll have to work with your rep and with Tim on a solution for that, or we will have to take some of the money away. And then the next question, did I understand correctly that only some grantees will be selected for annual monitoring, or will all organizations with emergency shelter projects be monitored? And so the answer to that is there will be 3 emergency shelters monitored this year. The following years, more projects will be monitored, but because this is our first year monitoring, well, starting our new monitoring process, only 3 will be monitored this year, and we are starting with emergency shelters. So 3 will be monitored this year, and for those who are picked, you will be contacted via email with a letter eventually. So you will hear from us if you are one of those special ones that are chosen. And it is not because you are running a bad program. Please do not think that. Everyone that has a contract with us will be monitored at some point because that is our due diligence and in our contract with HUD. So please do not think you are running a bad program. That is not what this means.
Yeah, and for those of you who have been around for a long time, you've been through our monitoring process, and I've walked you through it. I've met with you on it. You've worked with reps on it, and it's a standard process, and it's not as Amanda mentioned, it's not a penalty. It's a requirement. We're required to monitor all of our grantees. However, the ESG program is, you may not realize this, we are not a large program. We are we're a small team, and we get a lot accomplished as a team, but we just don't have we would need a whole division to formally monitor every single grantee every single year. So this year it's going to be the emergency shelter component. We have a few months to do it in. And as mentioned, we're happy to answer any questions. You will be receiving an intent to monitor letter if you are chosen. And then we will be having a meeting with your entire staff, your entire team, and we will answer any question and we will walk you through the process. We will give you tools and templates. It's a pretty smooth process. So we're looking forward to it. And we monitor every year. It's just that sometimes there are big national issues that come up in our program, as most of you are aware of, and monitoring might get pushed back to the back burner as we're trying to put out a fire with the federal government or something else. But it's something that we do annually, and we've got a great program in place, and we're going to continue doing it annually. And pretty soon it'll be old news to you. You'll all be veterans. Any other questions? No, I don't see any. And we are only a half hour in. I must have been way too much caffeine today, talking too fast. Let's go ahead and go to the next slide then. And we want to thank you for your participation. We appreciate your feedback. There's great questions. For more information on our program, you can always, for general information or general questions, you can contact the ESG NOFA inbox. And if it's more specific to your grant and your rep, go ahead and reach out to your rep and they can assist you with that. And let's go to the next slide. We always have our ESG webpage, a great source of resources. And we also have the NOFA inbox. So I want to make sure we get that out on the slide. Next slide, please. And we always put our social on here for you. I'm not sure how relevant it is, but we love for you to follow us on our social media. Next slide, please. So that's it. We're wrapping up. We went over the 2024 contracts, the expenditure deadlines and milestones, the recapture policy, and the upcoming monitoring of 2024 contracts. Our next office hours, remember, we're going back to the standalone ESG office hours. It's going to be Wednesday, August 19th, from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And we will be sending out a new Zoom invite by the end of this week. So we look forward to seeing you next month, and try and stay cool out there today. And we'll talk to you next time. Take care.